Good morning, all, or happy lunchtime to my friends in South Downs and you other people living in the future. And welcome to Kalbardr's Corner for this episode of Coffee with Kalbardr. I am Lord Kalbardr Geiler, companion of the Meridian Cross, companion of the Argent Comet, companion of the Argent Lamp, Osprey, and Reaper, coming to you, as always, live from the Barony of the Osprey on the southern coast of Meridies. Since this show is coffee-themed, today's coffee of choice is 8 o'clock's Caramel Flan. It's super tasty, actually. So, now that the introductions are out of the way, let's get into the topic. So for those of you who don't know, this show is largely just me ranting about a topic or discussing something. Consider this my personal diary, for lack of a better term. But all of you get to hear it and talk to me back about it. So today's topic is the three aspects of our society. And by society, I mean within the SCA, not like the society as a whole. And this topic is a weird one, and it has some backstory. So I guess let me start with the backstory. So there's been a lot of talk recently about titles and problems with titles, specifically around the peerage titles and related to slavery in the U.S., specifically in the South, and then the BDSM connections, things like that, but also related to the fact that our titles in the SCA are very gendered. And for those that are transgender, non-gender, or gender fluid, that's a problem. So there's been a lot of work on what to do to fix those. And in those conversations, I've been sort of looking at it, trying to figure out what, in my opinion, is our best route and how we can look at it as a whole. Because I'm not a big fan of the current push for alternative titles. I'm not a big fan for the push to move to everybody just picking their own titles. Because of consistency and as a herald and as a person who likes living in a framework of some sort, it bugs me. So I was like, okay, let me look at this from a different angle. So I started looking at why am I blurry today? That's weird. Anyways, what is the problem, or what is a problem I can address or look at, or maybe a way to look at this differently? So I don't have a solution, but I do have a different maybe way to look at our society. That maybe may help the mindset of how we look at titles and how we look at some of that. And I've given this talk a couple times in some small groups, and I figured I might as well go ahead and get it on record here. So let me jump right into that. So there are three aspects to our society. Now, that's an unusual opinion. Most folks usually divide it into two when I've had this discussion. One we usually can agree on pretty easily, and the other half is the problem. So the first half, or the first third in my case, is the legal aspects. So within our hobby, we have all the big things that make the hobby legal, that are the mundane nuts and bolts. So this is the seneschal, the reports, the money, all of the bill paying, all of the paperwork, all of the background checks, all the stuff we have to do to make sure we're legal and not getting sued and just functioning, right? All the stuff we do that's the strictly mundane day-to-day stuff. So that part is easy, is sort of there. It's the natural sort of just the burden we have as in this society. Nobody ever wants to argue that point. That's just the thing we do. Whatever. And frankly, I think we do it well, actually. Having been part of multiple various organizations ranging from small to large, the SCA actually does that fairly well. I think maybe there's some things on a local level we could fix in various spots, but largely we're pretty good at that part. Then there's the other half. The other half is the fun part, all the fancy dressing up, the research, all the fun stuff, right? Now, most folks just stop there, say legal stuff, fun stuff. I go one step further, and this is where I was sort of looking at it when I was looking at how do we wrap our heads around titles, alternative titles, and how that's going to work. By the way, those of you watching, if you have opinions or if you think something I say is crazy, please feel free to comment. Let me know. Say hey in the comments. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy this being very much a two-sided conversation, even though I am the one on screen. All right, so the two halves of the fun side. There's the historical education, research, stuff, right? That's all things we do that are period, that are historically based. Now, this includes all of our ANS projects, all of the classes. Well, let me back up. Most of the classes, our personas, and like all of the stuff we do that is period, right? So when I say that most of the classes, it wouldn't include things like the current Middle Ages classes or any of the stuff that is the how we do stuff now. It's strictly the stuff that is historically based. It's based on things that are from period, right? Now, I include our personas in this because our personas, those of us who have them in the kingdoms that still sort of largely use personas, those are supposed to be historically based, and they're supposed to be, our names are historically based, right? But our heraldry isn't. It is historically based, but it's not historically accurate. It is not historically researched. There is, why am I so blurry? That is so weird. But there isn't really a strict line. So the heraldry is sort of on the fence, but that's a rabbit hole of heraldry. So in this so far, I haven't mentioned a few things that are sort of pivotal to our society. I haven't mentioned kings and queens. I haven't mentioned tournaments or fighting or a lot of that stuff, right? Events. And that's a big part of our society. I haven't mentioned any of those things. All right. So within the historical aspects is where we're coming from the historical titles or the alternative titles, right? All these alternative titles we're pulling from the historical aspect of our play. And whereas some of them are just wrong because of how they translated them, some of them are accurate, some of them are being used correctly for the people that are using them, whether it be the Lord Lady level titles or the period level titles or beyond. But they're historically based, right? Which means they're all based out of a culture from somewhere, and they're all based out of somewhere in time, one specific place, one specific time, one specific culture. All right, so the other part of this, that's the fun half, is the role play. And this is where a lot of folks are going to be like, oh my God, Richard said role play, or Cal said role play. Oh, we're not LARPers. Hey guys, we're LARPers. Live action role playing. We are role playing. I am not really a medieval, 10th century Icelandic skull. I know, surprising, right? So we're playing a role. It's not a bad thing. Being a LARPer is not a bad thing. Okay, just throw it out there. Have been one, am one. It's cool. And that's actually one of the reasons I looked at this. Is because I do have a LARP background that is the actual the buffers and the spell packets and all that thing. I've done that. And so I came at it from that perspective of how do I look at it from this perspective versus how we do currently. All right, so in the role play aspect is everything else. So it's our kings and queens, our knights, all of the peerages, all of the awards, all of the events, tournaments, with the events, with the exception of the events being the legal stuff, right? All the stuff, the bill paying and the money, all that stuff. The themes, right? So whereas a lot of our events are based off of historical places, things have themes, they're not historical. Like we're not recreating a specific place or time. We're sort of just having an event based on a theme. Our tournaments, our fighting in general, we're not using real swords. We're not using historical combat, with the exception of like some of the C&D guys and some of the fencers, clearly. But even them, they're doing things outside of the exact historical, rules or whatever. So all of the role play stuff, the stuff that's the fun aspects of our society, including the parties and the drinking and the wars and all the tents and all the frivolity, right? That's all role play. It's all we're not actually, when I go to an event, I'm not a 10th century Icelandic skull. I'm just Cal showing up in a goofy tunic, having fun with my friends. But within the society, I am Lord Kalbardr, Commander of the Argent Comet, Commander of the Argent Land. Like that, those are things that I am. Those are a role I've taken on. I'm a herald. I'm a fighter. I'm an artisan. I'm a scientist. These are things I do in this society that I may or may not do on Monday when I go back to work. And I think looking at the society in those three aspects and sort of separating the pieces of it, right? And I've had some conversations with people about this because there are people that I've talked to recently that are very, very persona heavy, and that when they go to an event, they are, in their head, they're okay. Why is my 13th century crusader at this gathering of weird people? Where are these weird people coming from? And like they justify all this in their head, and that's fine. That's perfectly okay. If that's what you do, that's awesome. And I wish more people could do that, and maybe we'd be in a different place. A lot of folks don't. A lot of folks can't. People like out in I've talked to people in the West Kingdom. They don't have personas at all. They have names they've researched, but other than that, and they have garb that's semi-consistent. But they don't have. They're not a century-something person thing, right? They may have interests, they may have things, but they're not specific to a persona. And a lot of folks, even Meridians, don't. They have their general theme, but outside of that, outside of their garb and their dress and sort of maybe their focus of their research, they don't really have a persona. So I say all of that to sort of venture into the topic that's the hot button, right? How do we fix alternative titles? How do we fix titles? And I'm going to come at this from one perspective because it's easier to say it this way. But when someone is knighted, or made a peer, or as a king, or whatever, you are not a knight of England. You are not a knight of China or Japan, or you're not a samurai. You're not actually a thing of that place. If that's where your persona is from, that's cool. But you're not being made a knight in England because you're not a knight in the SCA. You're not in the SCA, right? And I say it that way because a lot of people actually argue that I've often said you're a knight of Meridians, you're a knight of County, or you're a knight of Trimaris, or whatever. And people argue that it's actually a knight of society, which I completely agree with. Per the rules, you're a knight of society. I personally, my opinion is you're a knight of the king that made you. And when you travel, you're traveling elsewhere, but you're a knight of the kingdom you're from. That's a political opinion that I may get yelled at for later, but that's fine. But I say that because then, if you are a king of Meridians, you're not a king of England. You're not a king of India, right? You're not a peer of India. So using a title from India or England or whatever isn't actually appropriate for the title you were given. Now, what's funny is we actually look at this historically. If you were, say, made a knight in England, or in let's you wouldn't not English, so made a knight in France, or you were made some peer, so like Don. I think Don is a peerage-ish title. I could be wrong on that. Let's just go with it is Don. It sounds French. I'm terrible. If you were given that by the French king, and then you move to India, you wouldn't translate that to their version of it or to England, and you wouldn't call yourself a Lord of England or a Knight of England. You're still a Don of France, right? So if you're made a peer in Meridians or made a Lord in Meridians, you're not a Lord of India. You're not a Lord of China. You're not a Lord of France. You're a Lord of Meridians, or you're a Lord of the Society of Creative Anachronism, which is you're Lord of the known world. You're not a Lord of those places. So using a title other than the one you were given isn't historically accurate and isn't proper. All right, now, the problem is the titles we have currently that we use, Lord, Lady, Master, Mistress, Sir, Dame, whatever, are a problem and are not welcoming, inclusive, and diverse enough for our current population. I don't have a fix for that, but I do have a fix for if we look at it differently, right? So, and those of us, those of the society who do have heavy personas. I was talking to somebody the other day in a Zoom chat about this, who very heavy persona based. That everything they do is persona, and they're always in their head of, why is my persona here? What am I doing? How did I get to this place, right? So far as, and actually they even in their head, instead of mutating their perception, they mutated space. So for them, a large war was, they found some large war thing in their head and said, okay, this is the Battle of Hastings, or this is Antioch, this is whatever, here's this place and time that I'm in. Whereas most people I talk to who do heavy personas, their persona is, okay, I am a Viking warrior traveling to a strange land. So I am going out of place, not the land, right? Again, both those are hard because nobody does that. Like, very few people in the SCA play that heavily into their personas, that it's difficult to maintain that play. You guys are quiet today. Where's your at? Beep, beep, beep. Hello. Is this thing on? So if we look at the titles, right? And if you're basing on your place, yes, we need to fix our titles. We need to figure out a better way to do this. Now, the way we have to come out about that is, as a society or as a kingdom, those groups that use those titles, and I'm talking everything from the king down, need to decide as a kingdom what a better use of what a better title to be given is. Now, obviously, I can never tell anybody what name to use, what title to use. We can barely tell people what not to use, frankly. I know that's always a struggle with heralds, and heraldry in general, is that we have all the rules of heraldry, we have all the things that you can and can't do. But if you want to paint fluffy pink bunnies and Hello Kitties and flames and whatever on your shield, I can't stop you. I can't tell you not to. I mean, realistically, the only power anybody has of you can't do that is when you cross over into the hate speech, derogatory. If you painted a swastika on your shield, you're going to get fussed at. You're going to get told no. But past that, like, it's I can't tell you as a herald, and even if I was the principal herald or the Laurel Sovereign of Arms, I can't tell you what you can and can't put on your shield or can't wear in your clothes, right? So those rules only work because we agree to them, and because we agree to play within that system. So even if we did dictate some, okay, the new, everybody's going to use noble or armiger or, other gender neutral title or other better version of whatever title we're going to use, right? I can't stop you from using Lord or Lady or, Sir, Dame, Master, Mistress. What's Margavati's Vidushi? I can't tell you not to do that, and I think there are time and places for that. When you're teaching a class, and you're teaching a class in persona or as your persona would, that's a perfect time to transition into that title. So if I was, a baron, for instance, I might use Jarl, or if I was king, I might use Jarl. And it's one of the problems, by the way. The problem with alternative titles is when you transition between cultures, there's no transitioning. So like the Norse culture in general didn't really have nobility. They had jarls and they had not jarls. That's about it. And there may be some cultural differences here and there, but like that was you had the guy in charge and you had the not guy in charge. So if you weren't the guy in charge, you didn't have a title until like later period stuff that was the Anglo-Saxons till the English invasion. But I'm terrible with history, so if anything I say is incorrect, go with the theme here. And feel free to correct me, let me know where I went wrong. But regardless of that, there's no transitions, so you're having to make sort of guesses at what could have been. And I may use a title that in my culture that then someone else is using for something different. I've seen that happen a lot with what's the title I see that's a problem? There's one that's a peerage title, but also can be used like for a count by count. I think. Can't remember his name. Anyways, but so we've got to find that balance of what's appropriate. Look, I have a king. Let's see. While I agree that you wouldn't change the title you were given, there was an equivalent rank between the different nations. Earl count being one that comes to mind. Also know that there's at least one female king in history because the language doesn't support a sovereign queen. So, Virginia, that's absolutely correct. If you look at Europe, you can translate across borders mostly because most of Europe, at least the sort of the developed parts, had similar structures because they were all bordering each other. That becomes a problem. Those equivalent ranks become a problem when you get outside of Europe, which is again part of why this alternate titles was being looked at initially because of European things, or your extra European things rather, and then also just the lack of gender or the abundance of gendered pronouns. But yeah, like Earl and Count. That's one that's a good example of alternative titles that's consistent. And I don't mind Earl, but like it's different in my head. Like you're a Count. You're not an Earl. You're a Count. You're a Viscount. You're a and I've seen that used too inconsistently. Where's I going? I don't know. Not enough coffee yet. Oh, bit of a station break for a moment. I've got this pretty sweet shirt that I want to show off. I think it's appropriate for right now. It says, "I'd rather be fighting." Oh God. I just disappeared, guys. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. Anyways, it says I'd rather be fighting. This was made by my good buddy Valgard, Mark Guerrero. Look up art by Mark Guerrero on Facebook, or I'll drop a link. Damn. Swag Monkey, sweet gear. He has lots of fighter stuff, lots of knights and squire things, and this is a pretty sweet shirt. So go support local artists. There you go. This stream sponsored by Valgard. He just doesn't know it. That's fine. So yeah, that's my opinion on that, I guess. So what? Yeah, dude, I don't know what happened for a second there, Elphick. That was weird. That's the first time that's ever happened while I've been actively talking. Like I know, like so, I'm a very white boy apparently. So occasionally my green screen will just interpret my hand as part of its green screen. All right, let's see what Walter has to say. So you mentioned in a class. So here's something with modern day British Parliament. Okay, cool. They actually refer to MPs by their titles rather than names in most cases. So I agree with my colleague, the Right Honourable Gentleman Lady, the Baroness Evans. Correct. So that's not dissimilar to what we do in the SCA, Walter. So it's His Excellency, Their Excellencies, His Grace, Their Grace, Her Graces, His Majesty, Her Majesty. I very rarely until you're talking about I'm specifically referring to the King and Queen, so it's Their Majesties or Their Royal Majesties or HRM, TRM. I've never seen them called just Tim and Ismay. That would be weird. It's His Majesty Tim, or Her Majesty Ismay. Like when they sign things, they sign with their name. We don't really call them by their name. I know that as that gets sort of lower in the echelon, that's less thing. There's also sort of a thing we can look at on titles in forms of address of it is actually improper to use, or sometimes except in a formal setting. So like in Parliament, that's a formal setting. So that's, and a lot of people made this argument of we shouldn't use titles except when we're in court or we're in court settings. And I don't disagree with that. So, outside of court settings, anybody who is equivalent titled to me would just use Cal, equivalent or higher, would just use Cal or Kalbardr, not Lord Cal or Lord Kalbardr, right? And this actually came up in a meeting the other day I was in. People started calling me Lord Cal, whereas it's appropriate. These are people who are like literally above my station. These were peers of our realm calling me Lord Cal, and it was polite, and I appreciated it. But also I was like, but no, because you're a higher rank than me, so you wouldn't necessarily use my title unless we're being like proper. It's like you don't use your full name unless you're in trouble. Same kind of idea. So people have argued that we only should use titles when we're in court. So that's 2 hours, an hour out of an event. I would argue a bit differently in that for me and for sort of what I sort of understood in sort of the role play aspect, right? Let's get back to the role play aspect. These events we go to are noble gatherings. They are they're festivals. They are formal occasions. Yes, we may be hanging out and just goofing off afterwards, but like it's a formal occasion. So we're dressed up. We are all across the land nobles. I don't care if you're not a lord yet. You are some form of nobility. You are some form of important person. So like we're all invited to this feast or this festival or this thing because, and I use thing actually accurately because that is the Viking version of that. But it's because you're nobility. So that's the thing. I don't know. And let me be clear. I like titles. I like awards. I gave the rant a couple weeks ago about awards and why they matter. I love it. I like it's why I'm a herald. I got into heraldry years ago because of Master Alexander. And the pomp and circumstance and sort of the regality of an occasion that he gave. He was held in heralding court and came into this whole like made a big deal, and it really brought me into the moment of that. But he also used titles, and he wore his regalia, and it was like it was the mist, it was the magic of that that I don't want to lose. That's correct, Shimon. So Shimon says, I've been raised as the norm was we are all usually the landed gentry, correct. So yeah, it's assumed, if we look at a historical model, right, that the people showing up to the events, to the festivals, to the feasts, are all the landed, folk. We are all rich people enough to have land, to have been invited, to be important enough to be invited to this thing. We're not all equal station, but we are all at least, we have met some, you must be this tall to ride this ride, requirement. So yeah, that's a, and it's like, I went on a tangent. So like, I like titles because titles give me that sense of regality. So I've actually gotten into arguments with a certain duchess out of the West Kingdom about this. And because I addressed her as Your Grace when I first met her and was being formal, and she fussed at me, and I was like, sorry, and but it's important to me. And I explained to her, like, it's part of it's how I maintain the dream, is that whereas Monday morning we're all going to work, we're all equivalent people, we're all free and living in the U.S. and like we have these rights and it's amazing, right? But for that 5 minutes, for that weekend, for that mindset, I'm a lord, she's a duchess. That's a big deal to me. right? For me as a player, that's important. And I know a lot of peers who are super down to earth and super chill, and like just don't really get on their look. I'm a peer, and I'm the big important person. And there's a lot of them but I still really respect, because they embody those peer-like qualities and the sort of the the importance of the thing, and I appreciate people who do that. That's a Western sensibility, not just personal perspective. I'm not sure what you're exactly referring to, Shimon, but sure. Oh my God, what is going on? Am I getting too close to the light? Oh. Sorry, my apparently my hollow emitter is not working today. A little Star Wars reference there for or Star Trek. Oh God, Walter's gonna kill me. Well, Star Trek reference there for Walter. I just felt Walter twitch. So for those of you watching, my buddy Walter, who's commented in the chat, super Star Trek nerd. He he wears a Star Trek Delta to work, and he's just a ridiculous person. I love every second of it. And he's probably chewing on his belt right now because I said Star Wars instead of Star Trek. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Right. Yeah. So not using titles is very much a Western thing. And so it's funny, that's actually it's one of the things that I think the South does well, I think, or has. So like, I was raised with sirs and ma'ams, and I got literally beat for not. That's actually a funny childhood story here. So we moved around a lot when I was younger because my dad was in the military. So born in southern Alabama, moved to southern New Jersey, which, by the way, that's a different environment. And they thought I was being sassy for saying yes ma'am, no ma'am, like the teachers. Like I got detention, got yelled at, got in trouble. So for 34 years, I stopped doing it. And then I came back to southern Alabama, and my grandmother, my mama, fussed at me and like yelled at me for not saying yes ma'am, no ma'am. So that's yay, right? But yeah, no, it's very much a cultural thing. So, and it's funny that the South is very much British. A lot of what we do, a lot of the Victorian things, a lot of the antebellum South stuff is very English, very British. And maybe why we kept titles like Sir and Ma'am and the formalities a little longer here, because of that. Now, there's also a whole rabbit hole of, because South enjoys the caste system and slavery, and some people are better than other people, and that whole argument. I'm not saying it's right. Don't get me wrong. I'm not at all saying that's an accurate statement. But that's probably why the South may be better at that, and why maybe titles are more used in Meridias than they are elsewhere, because we've hung on to that a little longer. Yeah, so, well, I mean, it's because you are Master Shimon. That is your title. The Master Mistress thing versus other titles is a bit different too. I don't like that we use. Actually, let me back that up. Our entire the problem with our current title structure is if we're looking at historically based, it's wrong. We look at the titles that were actually used and the equivalent titles and what would be. Master and Mistress were like low-ranking people in the world. Now, you could be John, Master Carpenter, but Master John, the Carpenter, is a very different person, right? So Master John is like saying Mr. John. There's actually a really good example of this in Pirates of the Caribbean. Master Turner, Master Gibbs. Those are just people that are tall. That's their names. It's just like saying, "Hey, dude," right? They were not masters, Now, at least Gibbs in this case was the sailing master. That was his rank on the ship. But like William Turner, who was a sword apprentice. He was a sword making apprentice, a blacksmithing apprentice, whatever you want to call it. He was not a sword master or a smith, a master smith or whatever. So titles aren't even accurate. Which is why I think the whole argument of let's use these alternative titles that are equivalent to the titles we're currently using because it's more accurate is also wrong. Because using the English or the French equivalent of Lord for Lord in our thing is inaccurate because again they're not actually correct of what we're using them for. So we literally could start using, instead of Lord and Lady, let's just use, coffee cup. I'm Coffee Cup Kalbardr. It's just as accurate. Like it's literally, it makes just as much sense. We could make up a word. It's the title we use for Lord, and that is here's our rank 1 title, here's our rank 2 title, here's our rank 3 title. We can make it up. We don't have to stick to historical documents for that because we're already role playing it. Like Tim's not really a king, guys. He's only king because we let him be. He only gets to wear a cool hat because we go to be good. If at any point we go, nah, boo, you're not king anymore. He's not king. Like it doesn't carry the weight unless we agree to it. So we can all agree to make it better. Apologies. No, please don't apologize, Shimon. You're fine. And yeah, so people use titles when you're unfamiliar with being formal. And that's the proper use of titles. So yeah, so when you first got to a place or got to South Downs or wherever, people referred to you as Master Shimon because you are a master of defense, and that was your title, and that's your name. That's proper to use. Now they just call you Shimon because they know you and they're familiar with you. But if somebody coming from outside met you, saw your regalia, or knew who you were, or found out who you were, dressing you as Master Shimon would be appropriate. Or when you were referred to into something, or invited to a place or whatever, that's your proper title. When I send mail to people in the SCA, if I'm sending them something that is an SCA related thing, I address it to them and with their full titles. So when I send stuff to Her Excellency Sneva, the Baroness of South Downs, it said, unto Her Excellency Sneva, blah, Baroness of South Downs, blah, 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 blah. It had those things on it. I'm sorry. You're Pelican, not mod. My apologies, Shimon. I'm just saying you should be a mod, apparently. Congratulations, I just promoted you. Pelicans get the short end of the stick, by the way. That's a whole rant on that. Pelicans are undervalued and under-recognized, I think, in the SCA. But yes, Shimon is a Pelican, not a mod. My apologies. But anything else? Any questions? I got about 3 sips left. Also, gotta love it, man. The Hulk. Yeah, no, yeah, Shimon, please. I apologize for that. I did not mean to assume you into a station there. I mean, admittedly, I don't think any of the mods that I know would be offended because you're pretty good at what you do. So I don't think any of them would be grumpy, but you're absolutely correct. My apologies on that. Somebody's got any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms? Wants to tell me I'm wrong. I'll take it. I love it. I'm gonna start doing these about every other week. I've actually started a document on my computer of topics because these are literally just things I think of things I want to talk about. I'm sort of using this as the campfire chats that I don't get to have with people. I've done a couple times via Zoom where like this actually the 3 aspect thing I talked about came up in a Zoom chat the other day in a late night revel after one of the South Downs meetings, I think. But it was a very small crowd, and I was like, you know what? This is a topic I think we should talk about more. I think one of the things about our society is we don't talk about the hard topics enough. And whereas this is not terribly hard. I mean, alternative titles is a hard topic, but I think we talk about it more, it becomes more common, it becomes more of a thing we can all be involved in. More people can talk. So I may not be the best to talk about these things, but I'm going to do it because I'm comfortable doing it. I don't mind. I don't mind catching the crap for it, and I don't mind at least being the one to bring the topic up. This is also an interesting thing for me because of being able to get my views out there, and so when somebody asks me, hey, what's your opinion on a thing, or if I want to know who I am, here's this, basically video journal of random topics about the SCA for me. Gets an idea of who I am as a person, so maybe let people know about more of what I do and who I am. So, but with that being said, if there's something you want to hear, or if there's a topic you're interested in, or you have a question of, hey Cal, what's your opinion on the length of rains in the West versus the length of rains in Meridias? Because did you guys know that they only have a 4-month rain in the West versus a 6-month rain in Meridias? So they have 3 crowns a year. That's weird. So like that. If you have a question like that, or want something you want to talk about, or somebody out there wants to join me one day for coffee, I would love to have a guest. This would be fun. We could talk about a topic, and you could bring your own topic and have a rant. I started this channel initially to document my classes, and that was the initial focus for it, was to put classes out there and have a place for them to be hosted. But I also want to provide this as a megaphone for people who may need one, or want to talk about a thing, or want to teach a class, or whatever. I'm here to facilitate. So if there's something I can help you with, or a way I can help you get you out there, if you want to, I've got the stream, I've got the channel, I'm happy to do the tech work. Let me know. The big challenge with getting to a shared society-specific set of titles is require everyone that doesn't want to RP persona to at least RP a base kingdom style persona. Correct. That. Elfric, you summed it up, and that's actually the thing I was talking about with Likey the other day. That is the biggest issue, is getting everyone to agree that that's what we're doing. And that's sort of why I brought this up, because I think that's going to be, in my opinion, I'm sort of like throwing this out there as the hill, that's the way we're going to fix this. We're not going to fix it with alternative titles. We're not going to fix it with everybody picking their own titles. We're not going to fix it with the hundreds of other options. I think that's the way we're going to fix it, is that we all sort of agree, okay, we're Meridian. We're in this society, we're in this kingdom, and we already do this. So we have awards, right? So this award only has meaning because we all have agreed what this little leather medallion means. This is my Argent comment, by the way, for a minute, isn't it? But so we're already sort of agreeing to a group role play here. So we've all agreed that knights are knights because of this reason. Pelicans are pelicans because of this reason. This guy's the king because he won a tournament. And then we give them those things. So all of our Kingdom Law stuff, all of it, all of Kingdom Law is roleplay. If you read through Kingdom Law, there is nothing in there. Okay, let me back that up. There's not much in there. I'm pretty sure there's nothing in there that is not strictly roleplay based. Okay, we have a lot of stuff we do in society that is rules and regulations and reporting and money and all the things that are like in handbooks and other places. The actual Kingdom Law stuff, the stuff that the king can change, the majority of that is roleplay stuff. So it's names and titles and ranks and awards and regalia, banners, pennons, crown transitions. That's roleplay. That's all roleplay stuff, right? I'm sure that, and like I said, I'm sure there's stuff in there that is more legal. and you could say because it's law, it's all legal, but it's referencing back to the three aspects of the legal, historical, role play, right? None of Kingdom Law is historical. None of it. Just take historical and set it aside for that. It's all role play or a little bit legal. So we're already doing a group role play. And I've said before, it's going to take. So whenever I teach titles or classes on titles, or classes on those things, I focus heavily on the peerages. And for the peers watching, I'm directing this towards you. I can only do so much. As a lord in this society, I can only do so much. I have the venue, I have the mouthpiece, but like I can only do so much because my word only carries so much weight. Now, admittedly, as a peer, your word only carries so much weight, but your words carry more weight to more people strictly because you have fancy letters behind your name. Right, wrong, or otherwise, whether it should or shouldn't be the case, it's true. And I don't mind that. It's a thing, right? It's just a thing we've kind of all accepted. So I think the peers of our society can be the ones to fix this. And it's got to start somewhere. It's got to start somebody's got to make an effort. Somebody's got to find a way. It happened with, if we look at the whole white scarf versus mod thing, we've transitioned. We've done so much with that. There's still some inconsistency, but there's still some things that go on of what a white scarf is, what a mod is, those interkingdom anthropology things, right? But they've transformed that whole environment. So I think those peers, mods specifically, the peers, can get together and maybe make some effort on this. Because if they start, if the peer circles start and make the impact, make a decision on what they're going to do to fix it, that trickles down. It's because they are the example, And that, folks, is an empty cup. So, I want to thank you all for joining me today. These are always a lot of fun. This is a good time for me to get, like, in this world of chaos and pandemic and things. It's really tough to get motivated doing a whole lot. Especially right now, I'm not working. I'm literally at home 24/7. The girls last minute day out yesterday just driving around playing Pokemon. That was awesome, just to get out of the house for a little bit. But I look forward to these. I look forward to my class every week because it gives me something to look forward to and gives me something to focus on. So please keep joining me. Please keep messaging me, sending me ideas. Like I said, if something you guys want to do or see, let me know. I'd love to host it, love to be a part of it. So with all that being said, I'm going to sign off and go have some lunch. So thank you all. This has been Kalbardr in Kalbardr's Corner. Thanks, guys.